Welcome back to the universe of God, where we have discovered the age of Aquarius that is upon us, and we are uncovering this age of Aquarius with starting at the understanding of the galactic plane. So it's believed by many that we're moving above the galactic plane, crossing from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age and straight to a golden age of consciousness and glory. While many believe that we may be entering an age of darkness where evil prevails and the rapture of the remnant who are faithful and holy according to the scriptures, perhaps a reference to 144,000, will be saved from the coming or dawning age of darkness. In my research, there is evidence to support both, which may be why so many people see the paralleling number of 11 as an encoded reference to this dawning age being golden to some and dark to others. Or perhaps the number 11 has nothing to do with that, but it's just attached to the coming or present age of Aquarius due to the Aquarius being the 11th house in the zodiac, or the 11th timeline on the zodiac. And but nonetheless, there's still evidence of both a dark time and a time of glory that is approaching. So I believe that the Aquarius is the 11th house on the zodiac. Some say it's the 10th and some say it's the 6th. And I say I believe it's the 11th house in the zodiac, as many believe, because many of us are seeing the number 11 like crazy, seeing 1111. There's a lot of talk and videos about it. I'm one of those people. So I believe that, this scene of the number 11, which for me started in 2007, is pointing us to the age that we are upon, that we're entering into. And that could be why so many people see the number 11, which is also associated with the 11th hour generation. In the Bible, there's a story that Jesus is telling about those who receive, those in the 11th hour who came at the 11th hour to work in the vineyard received a full day's wage. So even though they worked 1 hour, they came in the 11th hour, which is like, the last minute, right? The last generation, so to speak. They are getting the full wages of those who came at the beginning. And the Bible talks a lot about, those who are last will be first, and those who are least in the who are least will be considered greatest in the kingdom. And I think that those things are referring to us who are at the 11th hour, who are at the end of a time, entering into another time, a new age. And we're receiving all of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from the preceding workers, from those who have come from the beginning and shared this information, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding with us. And here we are at the 11th hour, entering the 11th house on the time clock, and we're receiving a full day's wage here. If you are a believer in Christ, and He's the door, the way, the truth, and the light, then you will also understand the concept of, coming in during this age of grace, this church age, where Jesus, is heralding. He comes in on the scene at the Piscean age. And he says, "Lo, I will be with you till the end of the age," as we are approaching the end of the age, and also a time when people are really wanting to do away with Christ, Christianity, religion, and all of these things in search for truth, which is ironic and interesting at the same time. So I'm saying all that to say, there's a lot of evidence pointing to that this is the 11th house in the zodiac. So that's what we're going to stick to. And people like myself who have not earned a lot of this, and who, not a theologian, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a scholar by definition of, expert terms or anything, but I'm receiving a full day's portion here, even though I'm coming in at the last minute to learn. So I get it. I get it. And you can do what you will with that information. But the time of glory, however, is not one that will happen in the earth, but for those who are taken out of it when its destruction is here. So I guess I would like to pose that as a question. Is it really a time of glory on the earth that we are entering into? Or is this time of glory very individual until that time on the earth comes? Interestingly enough as well, in the Bible, in Revelation, it talks about, first Jesus says he will be with us until the end of the age. And then in Revelation, at the end of the New Testament, where Jesus is coming in at the New Testament, it's saying that we're going to enter a time, of gross darkness. And of course, all the things that we're experiencing, these negative and positive things going on in our world, climate change, shifting of things in the earth, shifting of spiritual enlightenment and all of that stuff, and wanting to come out of the box of religion and all that, being associated, with this ending one age and entering into another. And at Revelation, it talks about 1,000 years, where, things will be dark and things will be different. And I don't have that scripture in front of me to quote it, so I'm just not going to mess that up. But my point is, Jesus, if he's literally with us until the end of the age and we enter into a new age where we're experiencing turbulence and turmoil, and 1,000 years, where it's like a time of judgment where, the earth is destroyed to be remade. Okay. One day is as 1,000 years to the Lord. Okay. So again, these things are connected. And I'm here to try to connect them with you all, and investigate them with you all, and discover what is to be understood from this. So right here we see in this image the galactic equator, the solstice sun in 1998. John, I can't remember his name, but I put it in the video, shared this image of what it looks like. And we see in 2012 the solstice sun. It shows us moving over the galactic equator, but what we can't tell is if that's an above the galactic equator or if that's a below the galactic equator. And it looks like from this perspective, from this point of view, it's above. But again, so when we're talking about this time of glory, and one that, time of glory that will happen in the earth when we enter the age of Aquarius, or, is the time of glory for those who are taken out of the earth when its destruction is in full swing. And I would say the destruction, being associated with the taking, our world being taken over, and under, a different type of rule that's dark and it's not enlightened and it's not holy. It's not, leading to spiritual freedom and truth. So I largely believe about the dark and the golden age, when we think of Aquarius, that it's like the earth is entering into a darkness, and the birth pains will cause catastrophes that bring in a new birth called a new earth. So in the Bible, it says there will be a new heaven and a new earth, as I mentioned, and that's in Revelation 21:1, and it says the old will pass away as waxing old, and a new thing will come. The Bible tells us that before this new heaven and new earth, this planet will be utterly destroyed by evil and calamity. But this will only happen in preparation of the new creation. Now, as many are heralding a new age of enlightenment, and we're going to space travel, we're going to Mars, we are, because science is saving us somehow, and all of these things. We also see a lot of destruction happening. We also, we're threatened by nuclear activity, wars, nations, not getting along, and just almost the unraveling of the people during this transition. So it's not hard to conceive the idea of this planet, being destroyed by evil and calamity, before a time of enlightenment takes place on this earth, or a new earth is upon us. But this will only happen in preparation of the new creation, either way. So this may be a foretelling of the earth's descent into the dark ages as it enters into Aquarius. But those who call on the name of the Lord will be saved by the dark age. My next question is, did Jesus come in Pisces to save us from what was coming in Aquarius? When he returns a second time, he says to look for him in the age of Aquarius, right? How do we know that? Because he replied, as you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters. The house is an astrological term as well. And again, I've explained that before. Quite possibly, this is what he means. Because the end of the age he was in when he said this was Pisces. And if he is to return in the new age, the second coming of Christ is what it's called. And many of us understand that as the return of Messiah ben David, who first came as Messiah ben Joseph. Being one and the same, with two advents, coming one as a suffering servant and second as a king in the house, in the family line of David, ruling and reigning. So if he is to return in the new age, will he be rapturing his church out of the Aquarius age, because it's an age of darkness that's coming upon us, while the world celebrates it as an age of light, love, and ascension and peace? And note, the church is not a building. It's a body of people. It's a collective body, just like we are a collective body on this planet. Perhaps it's only an age of light, and so on, for those who are going to be with the Lord. This is very important to consider when we talk about entering the age of Aquarius. And I believe this is where individually you need to measure and take stock of where you're at mentally and spiritually. Because when we enter into the age of Aquarius, I believe whether the world is entering into darkness or not, during this winter month, the end of the winter month, the end of a cycle of time, or, the end of a dark age, or the end, of an age where, I'll stick to the end of a dark age, because either way, it's the end. If we're entering into the age of Aquarius, we're still at the end of something, and the beginning of something else. So could this just be, like the 11, this parallel of, leaving a dark age that we have been in, where, we're entering into the house or the age of Aquarius in this dark age, but we're going to come out of it at the end of the Aquarian age. Things to consider. And if you are, if you're a Christian, some of this terminology just may seem just a little bit too much for you. For many reasons, but I think as Christians, we need to come into the understanding of the Bible and the universe of God outside of the confines of just religious thought, and start to line these things up with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's universal. So almost like we're, at a new age in the church, or, in religion, where we start to take God out of the tetragrammaton box that he's been in, and we start to experience, excuse me, experience him in a different way in the light of a new day. And we cannot be afraid to do that. We cannot be afraid to get out of the confounds of old things and enter into new things. That's going to wrap up part 3 of the Age of Aquarius in the galactic plane. Thank you for joining and tuning in. We're going to come back and talk more about Aquarius.